Hey everybody, it's Vidakit and welcome back to the channel. Another week, another Reddit story. Let's do it. Am I the asshole for giving my mother-in-law a fake copy of my house key and exposing her at Christmas dinner? I want to start by saying I'm 34, married to my husband who's 37, and we've been married for about a year. My mother-in-law is Snoopy, like aggressively Snoopy. My in-laws all say she can't help it, and that this is just how she is. My husband and I recently bought a new house. Almost immediately, my mother-in-law started pushing for an emergency key. She promised she would only use it in an emergency. Here's the problem. At our old apartment, she had an emergency key, and she walked in on us being intimate twice. One time seeing your son do that is more than enough. That's so creepy. My husband didn't think it was a big deal. I absolutely did. So when she kept pushing for a key this time, I eventually gave her one. It was a fake. I hand-delivered it to her, and she had this smug little look on her face like she'd won something. Fast forward to Christmas dinner. Out of nowhere, my mother-in-law angrily calls me out in front of everyone. She starts shaming me for giving her a fake house key and making her look stupid. So I asked her a very simple question. How did you find out that it was fake? She immediately said that she'd tried to come over a few days earlier around 4 p.m. while my husband and I were out, and the key didn't work. I paused and said, "Didn't you promise you'd only use the key in an emergency?" The table went silent. I continued, "So you tried to enter our house when there was no emergency, which means that you broke the promise you made to us." Her face turned bright red. Some family members started staring. A couple of them laughed. My mother-in-law suddenly stood up, ran into the kitchen, and had an absolute meltdown. I'm talking screaming, crying, a full tantrum. I have never seen a woman in her 60s lose it like that. Dinner was incredibly awkward after that. I am so surprised that you guys stayed for dinner. I would have peaced out. On the drive home, my husband was furious. He told me I lied, manipulated the situation, humiliated his mother, and exposed her in front of the entire family. He said if he'd known what I was doing, he wouldn't have let me get away with it. He's now demanding that I apologize to his mom for my childish behavior and for ruining Christmas. Not the asshole. She way overstepped by going to your house and breaking a promise after she said she wasn't going to. She didn't even get exposed. She voluntarily told everyone the key was fake. She exposed herself.
You played
This
yourself.
had to happen so that the boundary could be enforced, because clearly it wasn't going to be enforced. The son still took his mother's side, even though she came to you guys' house after she promised she wasn't going to. Am I the asshole for sleeping naked on top of the covers to teach my flatmate's girlfriend a lesson? I'm a 21-year-old guy living with my childhood best friend who's 22. We've lived together for about 2 years, and until recently, things were perfect. A few weeks ago, he started dating a new girlfriend. She's 23, and honestly, she seems great overall. We get along well, have a lot in common, and I actually enjoy talking to her. Except for one thing, she does not knock. She will just walk straight into my bedroom without warning. No knock, no pause, nothing. I thought that this was a situation where they were college roommates, so they shared an actual room with 2 beds in it. But her boyfriend and this roommate have 2 different bedrooms, and she just walks into his room. But she's not dating him. Red flag. So far, she hasn't caught me doing anything crazy. Usually, I'm just sitting on my bed or studying at my desk. But here's the thing, she does this a lot. And multiple times, it's been first thing in the morning. I sleep naked. Every time that she's barged in before, I've been under the covers, so nothing has happened. But I pointed this out to her multiple times. I have said things like, you should really knock. You could walk in on someone doing something you don't want to see. She always just giggles and says, but I didn't. This happened at least 7 times. 7 times is not an accident. Last week, she stayed over. At this point, I was honestly fed up, so I decided to make my point very, very clear. I intentionally slept on top of the covers. Sure enough, at around 7 a.m., she barges into my room, like always, starts asking if I want coffee, and immediately sees everything. She froze, backed out of the room without saying a word, and didn't speak to me for the rest of the day. Later, my roommate pulled me aside and absolutely lost it on me. He accused me of deliberately exposing myself and said I was completely out of line. He'd also said I'd threatened to do this before, which I don't think is fair. All I ever said was, what if I didn't have covers on and you saw everything? Now they're telling other people that I'm some kind of sick creep who intentionally got naked and waited for her to walk in because that's how I get my kicks. And honestly, I can kind of see how it looks. But from my perspective, I warned her repeatedly. I asked her to knock and she laughed it off. I never invited her into my room. I didn't chase her down or force her to look. I just stopped protecting her from the consequences. So, am I the asshole for doing this? No, not the asshole. When you're in your own space, you should be able to exist in whatever form you want to. If that's naked or wearing 20 layers of clothes, it doesn't matter. Anyone should knock before they enter your space. It's odd to me that they're calling you the creep, but she's the creep for coming into your room without knocking.
That's suspicious.
If she wasn't gonna have the wherewithal to stop herself, why didn't the boyfriend step in and stop her? I can't believe that he got mad at his best friend. What do you guys think? Was it a necessary lesson or did he take it too far? Am I the asshole for ignoring my coworker after he refused to use my real name? I've worked at my office for about 8 years. I'm on good terms with management and most of my coworkers. 5 months ago, a new guy was hired on a 6-month probationary period. I'm not his supervisor, but I am definitely a senior employee. I'll call him Ted Faro because he's a When Ted was first introduced around the office, the supervisor got to me and said, "This is John," and explained my role. Ted said, "Hi, Jack." I replied, "It's John." Ted said, "What?" I said, "My name is John, not Jack." Ted smiled and said, "It's close enough for me." The supervisor corrected him again and said, "His name's John. Let's move on." That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Why do people like this exist? For the next few months, Ted kept calling me Jack, even after reminders from supervisors when I wasn't around and reminders directly from me, he refused to stop. Eventually, I told him, "You either use my name or I ignore you completely, no matter the situation." His response, "Sure thing, Jackie boy." I don't work directly with him, so I decided to follow through. I stopped responding to him entirely. A few weeks later, Ted had a 2-day business trip that required a rental car. Guess who was responsible for the rental car and who didn't book it? I'm placing my bets now. I work late some nights, and that evening, Ted came up to me and said, "Hey Jack, I'll be dropping the rental car off at 7 when I get back. See you there for a lift back to the office." Important detail, the rental place closes at 6, but they have a drop box. I ignored him. At 7:15, my phone rang. I recognized his number and ignored it. He called 7 more times. 7 is just a lucky number this video. Then the email started. The first email said something like, "Jack, I'm an Enterprise. Come pick me up." More emails came every 5 to 10 minutes. Each one addressed me as something different. Jack, Jacko, Jackie, Jackie boy. Eventually, the email started including profanity and a couple of threats. At that point, I logged off and went home. It was pouring rain that night. The next morning, I saw more emails from Ted. I printed them all out and highlighted the threats. Around 10 a.m., Ted stormed up to my desk and started screaming, "Where the were you? I told you when to pick me up. I had to take a cab. Do you know how much that cost me?" He kept yelling until his supervisor rushed over and dragged him away to another room. A little later, the supervisor called me in. He said, "Ted tells me you ignored his request for a pickup when he dropped off the rental car. He was stuck in the rain." I calmly explained everything and handed him the printed emails. The supervisor read them, sighed, and said, "I can see why you wouldn't want to spend time around him, but leaving someone stranded in the rain isn't great." Then he paused and said, "With the threats, and given that he's on probation, Ted no longer works here." Since then, a few people at the office have said that I'm a jerk for ignoring Ted and getting him so riled up that he got himself fired. Am I the asshole? No, you're not the asshole. Ted became the way that he is because of people bowing down to him. He thinks that he doesn't have to follow any rules. He doesn't respect anyone, but he expects everyone else to respect him. It's a power dynamic. Ted just wanted the power to call you whatever. It had nothing to do with the name. He knew what your name was the entire time. I don't think John is an asshole at all. Yes, I did pause. I had to make sure that I got the name right. Am I the asshole for deleting my friends' wedding photos in front of them? I'm not really a photographer. I'm a dog groomer. I take a lot of photos of dogs for my Facebook and Instagram. It's kind of my thing. Every appointment gets a cut in a photo. I rarely shoot anything other than dogs, even though I do have a nice setup. A friend of mine got married a few days ago and, to save money, asked if I'd photograph the wedding. I told him up front that it wasn't really my forte. He insisted and said he didn't care if the photos were perfect. They were on a tight budget, so I agreed to shoot the whole wedding for $250. That was for about 10 hours. That's like no pay at all. On the day of the wedding, I started around 11 a.m. I was driving around with the bride while she went to different appointments before the ceremony, taking photos along the way. I photographed the ceremony itself, and then during the reception, I was taking pictures of speeches, guests mingling, everything. I was supposed to be done around 7:30 p.m. By about 5 p.m., food was being served. I hadn't eaten all day. I was also completely exhausted and starting to regret agreeing to do this for basically nothing. I asked if I could grab some food. I was told no. I was the photographer and needed to keep working. They didn't save me a seat at any table either. It was also unbelievably hot. The venue was an old veterans hall, around 110 degrees with no air conditioning. There was no open bar, no water station, nothing. I had brought 2 water bottles, but they were long empty by this point. I went to the groom and told him I needed to step out for about 20 minutes to get food and water. He told me I had 2 choices. I could either continue being the photographer or I could leave without pay. I asked him if he was sure. He said yes. At that point, honestly, I would have paid $250 just for a glass of cold water and somewhere to sit for 5 minutes. So I deleted every single photo that I had taken. I did it right there in front of him. Then I told him I wasn't his photographer anymore and left. They went on their honeymoon right after the wedding and have been completely silent on social media. A lot of guests have been posting on their page asking when photos will be ready. There's been no response. A few people I know say I went too far and that no matter how bad the situation was, deleting the photos was cruel. Am I the asshole? No, not the asshole. It was deserved. The guy was a total douche. I probably wouldn't have deleted the photos right off the bat, but I don't blame you for deleting the photos. Also, you said that he was your friend. Who treats a friend like this? This is a blessing in disguise. That's all the drama that I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next week. Bye!